Now, it's important to remember with infinitives, as with participles, the tense doesn't tell you when it happens in time. It tells you whether it happens before, during, or after the main verb, right? So we have to look at the tense carefully. Um, and with an indirect statement, the tense of the infinitive is going to affect how we translate that into English. You got that? We'll see.
All right, so let's look at a few examples of what happens when we change the tense of the infinitive. What happens to our sentence in our indirect statement? Look at this first example. Putat peratas porcos rapuisse. Rapuisse is a perfect tense, perfect active infinitive. Perfect, remember, perfectum in Latin means completed. That means the action has been completed before the thinking takes place, right? The action of the infinitive happened first. Because remember, with infinitives, participles, um, tense just tells you whether it happened before, during, or after the main verb, right? So he thinks that the pirates have stolen the pigs. He thinks that the action has already happened and is complete, right? Present tense. Putat piratos porcos rapere. Rapere is present tense. He thinks it's happening as he thinks it, right? It's happening at the same time that he's doing the thinking. Now, present infinitive, it doesn't matter whether, suppose he putave, he thought. If you have the present infinitive rapere, it means he thought that the pirates were stealing the pigs as he was thinking in the past. Or putabit, future, he will think that the pirates are stealing the pigs. In the future, he's going to think that they're stealing the pigs as he's thinking it. Right? The present tense with an infinitive or a participle doesn't tell you when something happens, it tells you when it happens in relation to the main verb. And so likewise with future tense. Putat peratos porcos rapturos esse. He thinks that the pirates will steal the pigs. So the stealing hasn't happened yet as he's thinking. It's going to happen at a later point in time, right? Um, so that's what our present infinitive tells us. It happens after the main verb, regardless of when the main verb has happened, right? So let's suppose he was thinking this in the past. The pirates, if he was right, maybe they did steal the pigs later in the past. Still, it's going to be a future infinitive if it happens after putat. A couple of other things we want to notice about this future infinitive that we want to keep an eye on. Remember, the subject of indirect statements is always accusative. Remember that for the future active infinitive and the perfect passive, which we formed from the fourth principal part, that would have been raptos esse, right? With those participles, we have to change the ending on the fourth principal part to agree with the subject. It's going to be accusative because the subject of indirect statement is always accusative, and paratas is masculine plural. So we have to say raptor os. It agrees with paratas. All right? And parata, even though its first declension is masculine. And will steal. Again, just to remember, we do not use the infinitive for indirect statement in English. So we're going to translate this future. I know when we first saw infinitives, we said, well, future active, to be about to steal. I mentioned at the time, we're actually probably will rarely translate it that way. We'll normally do something that sounds a little better in English. Because we use a clause in English and not an infinitive phrase, we're going to say just the regular future tense in English will steal. He thinks that the pirates will steal the pigs.